Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Joey Francis, your life, love, and relationship coach. Thank you so much for joining me. A lot of what I say on this podcast is about protection, red flags, boundaries, standards, knowing what you need, knowing what you don't need, understanding when someone isn't right for you, understanding when it's time to walk away. The blueprint method is built around the idea that you should know what you're building towards. You should know how you want to be treated. You should understand your non negotiables. You should stop letting chemistry make decisions your future has to pay for. And obviously, I stand by all of that. But there's another side to this conversation. Because once you've learned how to protect yourself, do you still know how to let love in? And that's the question. And I think it's an important one because a lot of people say they want love. They say they want something healthy. They want consistency, communication, honesty, affection, emotional availability, and most importantly, peace. They want someone who shows up. They want someone who makes them feel safe. They want someone who doesn't play games, doesn't disappear, doesn't make them guess, doesn't keep them emotionally starving. But then, when something good shows up, they don't know what to do with it. They start questioning it. They start waiting for the catch. They start looking for the problem, asking themselves, why does it feel different? Why it feels calm, why it feels easy, why this person isn't making them chase, beg, guess, or prove themselves. And because it doesn't feel like that, what they're used to, they start wondering if something is wrong. And the thing is, maybe nothing is wrong. Maybe it's just safe. And safe can feel very strange, especially when you're used to chaos. And that's essentially what I want to talk about today. Because I think a lot of people have become very, very good at protecting themselves from pain. But they haven't become very good at receiving love. And I understand why. When you've been hurt, protection feels necessary. Like it's the smart and responsible thing to do. We've grown. If you've been lied to, you tend to become more careful. If you've been abandoned, you become more aware of consistency. If you've been ignored, you pay attention to effort. If you've been made to feel small, you start looking for respect. Those things make complete sense. Pain teaches you things, as it should. Sometimes it teaches you things you need to learn. But pain can also overteach. It can turn every new person into a threat. It can make you treat peace like a setup. It can make you so focused on not getting hurt that you forget the whole reason you wanted healing in the first place was to eventually live, love, and connect again. That's where people get stuck. They heal enough to know what they don't want, but they don't always heal enough to receive what they do want. And that's a very different kind of work. Because avoiding the wrong person is one skill. Letting in the right kind of person is another. And I think that's where safe love can become uncomfortable. When someone is inconsistent, there's always something to focus on. There's always a problem to solve, a message to decode, a mood to interpret, a distance to close. You're busy, you're activated, you're trying to get back to the good part. And a lot of people make that mistake, that activation for chemistry. But when someone is consistent, kind, steady, and clear, there's no chaos to manage. There isn't as much confusion to chase. The relationship isn't consistently making you wonder where you stand. And if your body is used to earning love through anxiety, safe love may feel almost too quiet at first. It could come off as boring or even feel suspicious. It might feel like there's something missing. But the thing is, what's missing is the panic. Maybe what's missing is the chase. Maybe what's missing is that emotional roller coaster you used to call passion. And to be clear, I am not saying safe love should feel empty. There still has to be attraction, desire, playfulness, curiosity, and that feeling that makes you want to be close to someone. Healthy love should not feel like you're sitting in a waiting room reading old magazines. The point is that chemistry does not always have to come with anxiety attached to it. And listen, I'm not saying you should date someone just because they're safe or nice. That's not enough. You should feel drawn to them. You should still enjoy their presence, want to be close to them, and feel some kind of connection. But there's a difference between lacking attraction and being unfamiliar with peace. And I think a lot of people tend to confuse the two. They meet someone who doesn't make them feel anxious, and they assume there's no chemistry. They meet someone who doesn't pull away, and they assume there's no tension. They meet someone who communicates clearly, and they think the person is up to something. I've lived through that one many times myself. But sometimes it feels easy because you're not being manipulated. Sometimes it feels calm because you're not trying to win someone over. It feels safe because the person isn't making your nervous system fight for security. And that's worth paying attention to. See, something happened to me recently, and it made me think about this in a very real way. In fact, even the last episode, the birthday episode. Now, I've gone through more details there, but I'm going to keep the details broad because the details aren't the point. The point is what the situation showed me. Someone from my past came back into my life. There was history there, familiarity there, and a kind of comfort that doesn't feel like starting from zero. It felt like walking into a room where you've been before. You remember where things are. You remember the feeling of the place. And even if time has passed, familiarity has this way of making things feel easier than they probably should. Like that old saying, it's as easy as riding a bike, or you can remember it like riding a bike. And at first it was simple. Some conversation, some catching up, some honesty, some curiosity. But after a little while, things started to feel real again. And I don't mean real in some dramatic movie scene kind of way. Well, kind of that way too. There was moments. I mean the quiet kind of real, where you can feel something shifting, at least for me. The conversation felt natural. The affection was so easy. The connection starts feeling less like memory and more like possibility. And see, that's where things can get complicated. Because you would think safe love would be easy to receive. You would think that if someone is kind, present, affectionate, consistent, and honest, the other person would relax. You think that if something feels good and there's no chaos attached to it, that it would be a relief. But human beings aren't always that simple. Situations are not always that simple. There's so much going on in our heads. And when someone has spent a long time in relationships where love came with confusion, inconsistency, emotional distance, or affection that had to be earned, something safe can feel foreign. Peace can feel suspicious. Consistency can feel intense. Someone treating you well can make you wonder what the catch is, because your body is used to love arriving with a cost. So when things started to feel closer, I could sense the hesitation. I could sense that part of a person that wants comfort, wants connection, wants the feeling of being cared for, but then gets scared when comfort starts becoming something more real. And I understand that. I really do. Safe love can be confronting in a way people don't expect. It doesn't give you the same chaos to blame. It doesn't give you the same chase to hide behind. It places something simple in front of you and asks whether or not you can receive it. And that's where a lot of people struggle. They say they want consistency, but consistency can feel strange when they've only known people who made them fight for it. They say they want emotional availability, but when someone shows up emotionally, it can feel overwhelming. They say they want honesty and clarity, but when clarity arrives, they start questioning whether it's too much, too soon, or too unfamiliar. And I think that's what we have to understand. Healthy love can still scare you. something good can still make your nervous system uncomfortable, even if your nervous system was trained inside something unhealthy. That doesn't mean the love is wrong. It just means your body needs time to learn that peace is not danger. And this is where both people have responsibilities. The person receiving safe love has to be honest about the fear. They have to learn the difference between something being wrong and something being unfamiliar, because those are not the same thing. Something can feel uncomfortable simply because it's new. And if you mistake every uncomfortable feeling from a warning sign, you may end up running away from the very thing you said you wanted. At the same time, the person offering that safe love has to stay grounded too. You can be kind, you can be patient, you can be understanding, but you can't force someone to receive what they're not ready to hold. And that's a very hard lesson, because when you care about someone, you want to make room for them. You want to say, I get it. I've been through things as well. I understand why this might feel scary. And there can be truth in that. But understanding someone's fear doesn't mean you abandon your own emotional safety. There has to be balance. You can give someone grace without giving them unlimited access to hurt you. You can be compassionate without standing in confusion. You can care about someone and still recognize when the situation is asking too much from you. That's part of safe love too. Safe love isn't only about someone else treating you well. It's also about the safety you create inside yourself. It's being able to say, I care about this, but I'm not going to chase it into chaos. I'm not going to turn something beautiful into a place where I lose myself. I'm not going to confuse my willingness to love with a willingness to wait endlessly. That's an important distinction, because sometimes people think letting love in means throwing the doors open and abandoning all logic. They think openness means, well, I feel something, so I guess I should just go with it. No, that's not what I mean. Letting love in does not mean you ignore your standards. It does not mean throwing away your boundaries. It doesn't mean pretending red flags are romantic because you want the connection to work. That's not openness. That's self-abandonment. Learning how to let love in means allowing something good to exist without immediately attacking it, testing it, running from it, or turning it into a problem just because it feels unfamiliar. And yes, you still pay attention. You still watch behavior. You listen to your gut. You still keep your blueprint. But you also give the connection enough room to show you what it is. That's where people get themselves into trouble. They start studying the person instead of experiencing them. Every text becomes evidence. Every pause becomes a warning. Every calm moment becomes suspicious. Instead of letting the connection breathe, they treat it like a case they need to solve. And I understand why. If you've been hurt, your brain wants to protect you. It starts scanning. It's looking for the pattern. It starts asking, where is this going to go wrong? That can be useful when something is actually wrong. But if you let your fear run the entire investigation, it will find a problem even in something healthy. See, fear is very creative. It can turn consistency into pressure. It can turn kindness into manipulation. It can turn clarity into intensity. It can turn someone's interest into something you feel the need to escape. That's why self-awareness matters. You need to be able to pause and ask, is this actually a red flag, or am I scared because this feels different? That question matters because if you've been in chaos, peace may not feel peaceful right away. It may feel like waiting for the other shoe to drop. It may feel like you're standing in a quiet room, wondering when the noise is going to start. But the absence of chaos is not a problem. It might just be an opportunity. It might be your chance to learn something new about love. So, how do you let safe love in. And I think the first step is to slow down without shutting down. Some people confuse taking their time with becoming emotionally unavailable. They say they want to move slowly, but what they really do is pull away, become cold, test the other person, disappear for a bit, or create distance just to see if the person will chase them. That's not moving slowly, that's fear acting out. Moving slowly means you stay present, but you don't rush. You tell the truth. You let the other person know you like where things are going, but you want to build it in a way that feels healthy. You don't punish them for your past. You don't make them prove they're safe by surviving tests they never agreed to take. You're allowed to take your time. You're also responsible for how you take it, because someone being patient with you does not mean you get to be careless with them. The second step is learning how to receive. And this, believe it or not, can be surprisingly hard. See, some people are very good at giving love. They know how to show up. They know how to care, how to listen, how to help, how to make another person feel valued. But when someone tries to give back to them, they get uncomfortable. They deflect compliments. They feel guilty for accepting help. They question affection. They assume kindness must come with an agenda. They feel like they owe something immediately because someone showed up for them. And maybe that comes from past relationships. Maybe love used to be transactional. Maybe affection was only given when someone wanted something. Maybe kindness always had strings attached. So now, when someone does something good without asking for anything in return, it feels hard to trust. But not every act of kindness is a contract. Sometimes someone is just trying to love you well, and learning to receive that matters. You don't have to immediately repay every compliment. You don't have to explain why you don't deserve it. You don't have to shrink when someone sees something good in you. Sometimes the practice is just saying thank you and letting yourself believe that maybe they meant it. And I know that sounds simple. It's not always simple, but it matters. Another part of letting love in is that communicating the fear instead of acting it out. This might be one of the biggest ones because fear will come up. I don't think the goal is to never feel afraid. That's unrealistic. I mean, I'm constantly afraid when it comes to women and relationships and dating. If you've been hurt before, closeness can bring fear with it. The goal is to stop letting fear control your behavior without explanation. If something feels scary, say it. You don't have to turn it into a dramatic speech or a podcast. You don't have to make the other person responsible for fixing you. But you can say something like, I like this. And I'm realizing that when something starts to feel safe, part of me gets nervous. I'm not asking you to do anything with that. I just want to be honest so I don't start acting weird and make you guess what's going on. Now, you see, that's a different type of conversation. That's mature. That's self-aware. That's giving the other person context without making them responsible for your healing. Because fear comes less dangerous when you stop hiding it behind behavior. If you're scared and you disappear, the other person has to guess. If you're scared and you become cold, they might think they did something wrong. If you're scared and you're testing them, now you're creating damage in a relationship that may have been perfectly fine before fear took over. But when you name what's happening, you give the connection a chance. That doesn't mean the other person has to carry you. It doesn't mean they have to tolerate anything. It simply means you're choosing honesty over sabotage. And that is a big part of letting love in. Because love needs honesty to breathe. It needs room. It needs two people who are willing to be present with what is actually happening instead of letting old pain write the whole story. And I think that's where the blueprint and love have to work together. Your blueprint protects you from abandoning yourself, but your heart still has to remain open enough to receive something good. The point of having standards is not to become impossible to love. The point is to stop giving access to people who are not aligned with the life you're trying to build. But if someone does show up with kindness, consistency, honesty, attraction, values, and real effort, at some point, you have to let yourself experience that without immediately trying to destroy it before it can hurt you. That's the uncomfortable part. Because letting love in requires risk. There's no way around that. You can do everything right and still get hurt. You can move slowly, ask good questions, pay attention, communicate, stay grounded, and still have something not work out. That's part of the deal. Love will always involve some level of risk. You are opening yourself up to another human being, and human beings are not machines. They have fears, flaws, histories, and choices of their own. So the goal is not to remove all risk. The goal is to stop confusing risk with danger. Because everything meaningful carries some risk. If you want love, you have to allow vulnerability. You have to let someone see you. You have to let them matter. You have to give the connection enough oxygen to become something. And that is scary. But if you keep waiting for love to feel completely safe before you let it in, I hate to be the messenger of bad news. You may never let it in at all. Because love, safe love, real love, it requires courage. Courage to stop assuming the worst. It requires courage to receive care without turning it into suspicion. It requires courage to let someone be consistent long enough to show you who they are. It requires courage to say, I'm scared, but I'm not going to let fear make every decision for me. That's what healing looks like at this stage. At first, healing might be learning how to walk away from what hurts you. That's important. That matters. Some of you need that lesson more than anything else. You need to learn how to leave what keeps breaking you. But eventually, healing has to become more than knowing who to walk away from. It has to become knowing how to stay present when something good finally shows up. That might be a harder lesson for some people because walking away can feel powerful. It can feel like self-respect. But staying present with something good, something calm, something emotionally available can make you feel exposed. There's no chaos to hide behind. There's no obvious villain. There's just you, the other person, and the question of whether you can let yourself be loved without making love prove itself through pain. And maybe that's the real question for this episode. Can you let love be good? Because if you've been asking for safe love, there may come a point where safe love arrives differently than you expected. It may not feel like fireworks in the chaotic way you're used to. It may feel like peace. It may feel like steadiness, like someone doing what they said they were going to do. It may feel like not having to beg for basic consideration. And if that feels strange, don't immediately run from it. Get curious. Ask yourself what you're feeling and why. Ask yourself whether this person is actually doing something wrong or whether they are simply showing up in a way you're not used to receiving. And if the answer is that they are showing up well, then maybe the work is not to find the problem. Maybe the work is to learn how to receive. Now, of course, I'm not going to tell you to ignore your instincts. I'm not telling you to silence the part of you that notices when something is off. But there's a difference between safe love feeling unfamiliar and your gut telling you something is like drastically wrong. That difference matters. If somebody is rushing you, pressuring you, ignoring your boundaries, love bombing you, saying all the right things without consistent behavior behind it, then pay attention. That's not what I'm talking about here. Safe love is not just someone saying beautiful things. Safe love has behavior attached to it. It has patience, respect, consistency, accountability, and room for you to be a person. But when someone is treating you well and your only evidence against them is that it feels unfamiliar, that might be something inside you asking to be healed. Not by them, by you. They can be part of the experience, but they cannot do the healing for you. Take my word for it, I know that firsthand. Firsthand. I've tried to fix people. Cannot fix people. People can fix themselves. You can be there for them. You can be there for them. You can help them help themselves, but you cannot do it for them. No one can love you so perfectly that all your fears disappear. Someone can treat you well and your fear may still show up. That is why your responsibility is not to be fearless. Your responsibility is to be honest and aware of what you do with the fear when it arrives. Do you talk about it? Do you slow down with care? Do you observe without attacking? Or do you sabotage the connection and then call it intuition? That is where you have to be honest with yourself, because sometimes intuition is wisdom, and sometimes intuition is just fear. And you're the one that has to know the difference between the two. This is where you have to start paying attention to your own patterns. Look at what happens when someone gets close. Look how you tend to feel pulled towards. If inconsistency feels exciting, if peace feels boring, or if love only feels real when you have to fight for it, then the issue may not be that safe love is missing something. The issue may be that your body learned to confuse anxiety with connection. Those are things worth looking at. Because if love only feels real when it hurts, safe love will always feel suspicious. And the thing is I don't want that for you. I don't want you to spend your life chasing people who make you anxious just because anxiety feels familiar. I don't want you to push away someone kind because kindness feels too quiet. I don't want you to confuse calm with emptiness when calm may be the very thing your life has been missing. So learn how to let it in. Slowly, honesty, with your eyes open. Letting love in means staying open without losing yourself. You still keep your standards. You still pay attention. You still stay grounded, but you also allow the connection to breathe instead of trying to control it before it has a chance to show you what it is. And if it grows, let it grow because it's real, not because fear or fantasy is pushing it there. Let it grow because the character is there. The consistency is there. The communication is there. The attraction is there. The values are there. The respect is there. Let it grow because the foundation can hold it. But don't kill it just because it feels different from the love that hurt you. That's the point. Safe love will not always feel familiar at first, but unfamiliar does not mean wrong. Sometimes unfamiliar means new, healthier. Your nervous system is learning that love doesn't have to feel like survival. And if you're ever lucky enough to meet someone who makes love feel safe, do not punish them for the people who made love feel dangerous. And I'm not saying that you have to trust them blindly. It just means you give them a fair chance. And maybe that's all safe love really asks for in the beginning. A fair chance. Not perfection, not blind faith, not immediate certainty. Just enough openness to let something good show you what it is before fear decides the ending. Thank you so much for listening. I honestly appreciate you so much. And I appreciate you being here with me. If by any chance this episode hits something in you, as it's like hitting me right now, even though I've read it like 14 times already, sit with it. Ask yourself whether you actually know how to receive the kind of love you say you want. Ask yourself whether peace feels unfamiliar because it's wrong or because you're not used to being loved without chaos attached to it. And if you need to reach out, you know where to find me. You can go to joeyfrancis.com. That's JoeyFrances.com. And you can send me a message there. You can check out my books, find other places where this podcast is, or watch me on YouTube. And for this week, I want you to remember this. At some point, healing has to become more than knowing who to walk away from. It has to become knowing how to stay present when something good finally shows up. Till next time.